Hi, this is Coach Chan from Uppercut Martial Arts Studio. In today's video, we are going to discuss on one-step sparring for yellow belt. So one-step sparring is actually focusing on your counter-attack reflexes. Compared to the white yellow belt three-step sparring, which focus on distance management. All right. One-step sparring will be much faster in terms on your strategy and your tactic formulation while you move on to defend yourself. So the technique for the one-step sparring, I'm going to reuse those techniques from white yellow belt three-step sparring, which is knife hand slash, body punch with the same hand. Second one is elbow. Third one is step right, left side kick, guarding block. The fourth one is step left, right side kick, guarding block. And the last one is pushing away the punch with a sitting stance slide to the side. This way, punch head, punch body. So the movement is actually the same with the white yellow belt techniques. But it's much faster because you not only that you need to gauge the distance immediately for your counter attack, but you have to respond very fast for your counter attacks. So for example, when you train on this technique, you have to be very good in distance control, already trained in your three-step sparring. So the first one is knife hand slash body punch. As I explained before, your opponent while training one-step or three-step sparring, they will start with the action of shouting. So when they shout, they are signaling to you, if you are the second opponent, that I'm ready to punch. So if you are the second opponent, now that I'm second opponent, first opponent, once I hear the first shout, I will need to gauge and make sure, okay, did I get the right distance? All right, and sometimes you can measure with your arm and whatnot, but if you train long enough, you can more or less get the right distance already. So when you are ready, then you do the second shout. First shout, I'm ready to punch. Second shout, I'm ready to defend. So once the first shouter hears your second shout, that means you're signaling him to punch. Then you'll start to punch and you react with your one-step counter-attack techniques, okay? So you'll be like that. A, for me, checking, A. Then this person will move forward to punch with a walking stance. I will execute. So you will see that I'm trying to block away an incoming punch. At the same time, allow me a right distance to slash and punch the body with the correct force. If you're stepping too close, you cannot execute with full power. Too far, you cannot reach. So where you step with your right leg is very important, all right? So second one is the same. A, punching, move forward, elbow to the face or side of the neck. Third one, A, move, step because your leg is longer than your hand. So you can see it's immediate action. Number 4, A. And number 5, shout same, push, face body. So in one-step sparring, it's very quick and very precise. But when you go for test, the examiner will have to look at your distance control and how accurate you are throwing those attacks. So if you see your students are throwing too wide, too close, you have to correct them. Because if you do not correct them at the beginning stage, when they reach green, blue or red belt, they're still maintaining this habit. It will tell you that they do not understand how to perform self-defense. So when you're learning real application, how to protect yourself, this is how you gauge your distance, and you have more time to think about strategy and how to avoid and anticipate. All right. So this is about the One-step sparring technique for yellow belt. Very simple, very quick. I do not have much to add because right after this stage, when your students passes the belt and move on to yellow, green, or even double promotion to green belt, they will start to train free sparring. Now in free sparring, I will make a separate videos in a playlist that talks all about sparring. Those are more based on my experience when I compete or when I have some thought watching some other videos. I will share in that playlist. Okay, so this will conclude one-step sparring. And before I move on, I will also talk about the application of yellow belt techniques as much as I can, because we still have time for this. So how should we do this? The first one. Now before I do that, just come to my mind. When I started my own Taekwondo school, I wanted to create 5 one-step sparring techniques for each belt starting from yellow belt. That means when you reach red belt, they also have their own, you will have a lot of one-step sparring for 5 self-defense techniques. And these techniques comes from pattern. It's very interesting because when you are able to pick those techniques from a pattern and put it into a new sets of one-step sparring, 5 of them, you will understand more about the application of self-defense. So by the time you reach black belt, you will have a lot of material or techniques in you to form a very complex self-defense movement where your opponent find it difficult to catch up with you, all right? Because in self-defense or any type of sparring or fighting skills, when you do the same technique over and over again, your opponent tends to know the trend of your fighting style. So if you have a lot of combinations that you can play around with it, you always put your opponent in the position of alertness and defensive, because they do not know what you're going to do next. All right, this is one of the strategy to be a best free sparring opponent. So back to application. In yellow belt, last video I talked about the 8 steps for yellow belt, the 8 techniques. The first one is outer forearm block, obverse punch. Now, before I explain, bear in mind, these are based on my assumption, because in Taekwondo school, traditional Taekwondo school, I do not have the opportunity to learn application, because they would only show me the form. They would explain to me how this techniques is being used, but they do not put it into practical terms. So it's quite a challenge for me to find out, okay, how should I use this technique for real, all right? So this is how I like to offer to all the seniors and other fellow black belts to comment, make a comment and post it under this video, and we can discuss, all right? I like this discussion. There's no right or wrong suggestion, but it gives me a lot of idea, and we can train and make Taekwondo a even more efficient self-defense tool. All right. So as we were saying, the first technique is outer forearm block, obverse punch. So in application, of course, you can do it multiple ways. This is just arm motion. Is not fast enough, but you combine with the opposite arm, you check, then the application will make more sense. Of course, this can be blocking an incoming punch, not for hooking punch. All right, you can't block this way. Maybe a turning kick. All right, but when I show this to my students, I will ask them to simultaneously do this counter attack when they start punching. So the scenario is when they move forward, you move to the side. Now this hand is to block away any type of incoming attacks. All right, so you can see clearly. And hence, that is my interpretation for out of one block, obverse punch. Okay, now come the second one, which is quite tricky. The second technique for yellow belt that I explained before is spear hand walking stance, press, and spinning back fist. Now, when I started trying to teach my student to do this in one-step sparring, it's so challenging because it's impossible for me to create this one-step sparring where it involves so many steps, so many type of techniques. So in basic terms, what spear hand is actually pushing down incoming punch and attack the solar plex with a 3-finger flat point. All right, this is where you attack the solar plex. Now solar plex is a very small area for you to attack. It's in between the chest, right above the stomach. All right, it's so small and so hard to get to when you throw this. All right, it's still painful. All right, but the idea is there. You have to be very careful of how you execute this technique for one-step sparring. So if you ask your opponent to throw that punch, it looks weird, but I'm talking about practicality. How do you apply? This is the belly button, the face, the chest, solar plex is somewhere here. How do you pinpoint spear hand straight here? Now, if you do this one-step sparring, we will not be doing, okay, both pulling back, guarding block, then you throw the first punch, I'll be spear hand like this. If I do not move, the punch will get me. All right? So in practical use, I would believe this spear hand, before I proceed, if you use these 3 fingers, make it a flat point, and poke yourself, very lightly, this way, you can feel the pain. All right? If you poke on the muscle part, you feel the pain, but you can take it. But you find that solar plex, and you find the good point, you see that I'm not hitting very hard, it's very hurtful, very painful. So you have to really work this motion out. You do not need to train on the wall or whatnot to condition, don't worry, because the human body is not that hard, especially the nerve point. So these 3 fingers to go for the solar plex is not that hard. So that is the application. Go for the solar plex, poke it right down. Okay. Now, the second part of pressing down, all right, is kind of a very interesting subject for me. In the teachings where you are doing this action, it seems that I'm being caught when I do the first spear hand. My hand is being caught, and this action is to release that arm, release from that arm, and surprise him with a spinning back fist. But it doesn't make sense to me because your spear hand is so fast. How do you catch my hand? All right. So my interpretation is the second press is the second attack on the solar plex. So you get what I mean? I'm attacking twice. Press down solar plex, attacking again the same spot with this action. So in the second technique, my interpretation is I'm poking forward 2 times. Instead of first time, people catch your hand and release. Because it just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Any seniors, you can just comment on this. And the last one, of course, I did not include spinning back fist in this second one-step sparring because application-wise, 1, 2 is already enough. All right. If I include the spinning back fist, my footwork is wrong. My footwork is just wrong. Okay. That's why I move spinning back fist into the next one-step sparring action. So this is quite interesting because to some of my students, they know I'm teaching kickboxing as well, and spinning back fist is quite a common technique for kickboxing. There are two types. Front leg step over to the back leg line. This is spinning back fist. See that? Front leg step to the back leg. The second one is when you chase someone, all right? You will step forward and continue the same spinning location. Spinning back fist. So, but in Taekwondo, that action, 1, 2, 3, I just can't link it together. So I'll break it into two groups and use that spinning back fist. So when you talk about application, there are many ways. Forward, back fist, spinning back fist, all right? Or when you chase someone, forward to throw that spinning back fist. So this is my application for back fist. Moving on, next one is wedging block. Wedging block front kick, double punch. It's the third technique for yellow belt that I teach my students. Double punch, very simple. This is obvious. Front kick, very simple. All right. Snapping kick is always for the body or the chest. And the next one, which is wedging block. Now, wedging block, when I explained earlier, is when someone is trying to catch you. All right, and you're trying to work on that arm. It can be applicable when you hit that distance. The arm is this long, you want to hit from here. You don't want to hit forward to block it. It can be done. So when that arm is open, you throw that arm hitting my bicep, I cannot close it and I feel the pain and your attack is successful. All right, so instead of doing this, you throw forward. Or when you intercept that grab, okay, on the wrist. So when the wrist is clear here, you can step back. So this is my interpretation of wedging block for real application. But the concepts, remember to use the concept. It doesn't have to be exactly in that scenario for you to execute wedging block. It can be 2% or 3%. Or someone grab you with one hand, the other person grab you with the other hand, and you're trying to block it. It's the same concept. So you have to understand how to use that application. And the last one is knife hand slash sitting stand. Now, to some of you who watch my 12 techniques for white yellow belt, technique number 5 is actually knife hand slash L stand. But this technique is sitting stand. All right. Now, this is the time I would like to explain. For half facing action, you have half facing because you have more force with your attack. You have less power standing as side facing. So why are we learning side facing? Now, half facing, short distance. Side facing, long distance. So if you interpret it that way, this is the application from side facing, knife hand slash, sitting stand. So here you go. I'm not going to talk about how to use the rest of the 4 techniques within the 8 for yellow belt, which is front kick, back kick, turning kick, back kick, side kick, back kick. We all know how to use that. We all know how to use that, especially for those who already started free sparring. Okay, I hope this video will give you some insight of one-step sparring and its application. All right, and if you understand where my approach is from, you will see that I am trying to create a lot of training material with students pairing up together. For children, it's a bit difficult because of discipline, but when they reach certain age, usually about 11 years old and whatnot, if you're strict in your class, they will start to appreciate what are these techniques for. Sometimes they will have fun even before class, executing certain techniques from the pattern that they have learned. So sometimes I also have quiz when I ask them, okay, this is your new pattern, you have this new technique. How are you going to use this technique in real terms? All right, in application, how do you protect yourself? So it triggers their mind to start thinking about, what am I doing with this pattern? All right, and those who already learned the application, when they redo the pattern, let's say now we are at yellow belt, the previous pattern is Sajo Jirugi, Sajo Maki Chenji, now you have Tangun, then you think about, when I perform the pattern, what am I doing against the opponent? All right, 2 people, 4 people, 6 people, how do I move, how do I turn? And this makes the training much more meaningful, all right? And it's a very long process. It doesn't mean that, oh, I know the steps, I know the application, I did the one-step sparring, all right? I tried the training, but in real life, can you really do it? So that is the next stage for you to dwell into and train, especially when you are in black belt. Because for my case, if you cannot defend yourself, you're not ready for first dan. All right, that's the meaning of first dan, black belt. You have to be able to protect yourself at the earliest stage. All right, that means when you feel the threat or you sense the threat, you know how to react. That's the most important thing. So color belt training is very important. As an instructor, I do not want to rush this stage. In my class, I have no black belt. The seniors, I have a couple of seniors of red black belt. They have been with me still for 4 years, and they are still not ready in my eyes. All right, because I want them to really be able to protect themselves and what to look out for. And it means a lot to me for my students to be able to do that. So hopefully this video can give you a lot of insights, and I hope my sharing is purposeful for you, those who are teaching or those who are learning. Feel free to get to my link, post any questions. If you have, I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. So I'll see you on next video, which will talk about yellow green belt. Okay, so I see you next class. Sorry, see you next video. Don't forget to press tick like, share and subscribe my channel. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.